Tell us about yourself to people who don't know you.
And then met MD Fish Tanks.
Social media, and obviously with it being your job and that now, how do you think it's impacted the hobby? Reading descriptions of what some old guy in another country is like, caught this little minnow.
Like 3% of aquascapers use open-top aquariums. And I saw someone comment about you the other day where you had inspired them to start making their own YouTube videos, and that's amazing.
So, tell us about yourself to people who don't know you.
So I am Matt, aka Fish Shop Matt. I started in the hobby, I think 18 to 20 years ago. I can't really remember, and I can't really pinpoint a date, to be honest. But yeah, about 18 to 20 years in the industry. So working in fish shops and pond building and all of that sort of stuff. Before that, I was keeping fish from when I was about 13, 11, 12. But I've had fish tanks in my house since I was like, I've got pictures of me on a tricycle, like 2-3 years old, in front of an 8-foot fish tank that used to be my brother's in my front room. So I've always been around fish. And it wasn't until I was like 16, 17, 18, looking at getting a job, that I found fish keeping in a more of a job sense, I suppose you would say. And yeah, from there I worked my backside off at the shop, started off as a sales assistant, ended up as a fish house manager, ended up as an assistant manager, ended up as a manager, ended up as a regional manager, and then COVID hit. And then I'd done some pond building with a friend of mine and went off and built some amazing, like, big ponds, went back to the shop to work for a bit, and then met MD Fish Tanks. And from there, my knowledge of YouTube and fish keeping sort of joined together, and he gave me a platform to show the educational side of things, of like talking about how to feed fish and how to clean your tanks and I don't know, how different fish species profiles. And he gave me that platform to then show off my knowledge in that side of things. And now we're here. Now I've got, I don't even know how many aquariums in the house.
I can't even
20,
count myself.
Maybe 18. Obviously, I've shut a few down recently to move them around and had the garage built and things. So, yeah, so now I'm full-time, YouTube, constantly making content, building aquariums in zoos and ponds in zoos and building stuff in children's hospitals for aquariums and stuff. And this is where the channel is now. And we've got lots of cool stuff coming up. But yeah, it's a pretty mental ride over the last 3 to 4 years.
So like that probably stems into like what you were talking about with social media and obviously with it being your job and that now. How do you think it's impacted the hobby personally and then like widespread too?
So social media always interested me at the shop because even before MD started coming into the shop, you could see the impact that posting a picture of a new fish or new plants, and if you were regular on posting on social media, you could see the impact that that could have on your shop. And I think a lot of shops miss out on that. I think a lot of shops are so wrapped up in like, oh, you know, I've got to clean the tanks, I've got to do this. And yes, you do. But actually, if you want a shop to succeed, posting on social media is huge, massive. You can get in front of your audience when they're sat eating their dinner in an evening. They'll be scrolling through Instagram or Facebook or, you know, take your social media platform of choice. And your shop is in their house that evening. So I think it's changed it for the better in some respects. There are elements where I think people need to remember, this is probably a different tangent, but people need to remember that we were all beginners at some point. And so when someone logs into a Betta keeping forum or a Facebook group for something, and all of a sudden everyone's dropping down on them and being like, you can't do this and you can't do that. We've got to remember we're beginners. So social media, I think, for that part is a little bit scary because I think we can do a lot more damage and scare a lot of people off by not running these groups correctly and nicely. Mm-hmm. But on the other side of things, for the shops, you've got an instant access to people and to show off what you can do. Like, you can show off what cool fish you've got, what cool rocks you've got, but no one likes to be sold to. So that's one thing I would say. Just don't sell, just show off what you're passionate about. We're all in this hobby because we enjoy this hobby. We don't do this hobby for money. Like, there's not millions of pounds in fish keeping. Not really, not for most people. So you do it as a love. And to show off what you love, it's showing off those pictures. I think social media has changed it massively. It's opened it up. It's, you know, the internet's opened it up, because you used to go into a fish shop and you would see a fish and you would take the word of the shop assistant. Oh yeah, they'll be fine with neons. You know, I've heard that being said about tinfoil barbs before. And you're like, I've had to tap people on the shoulder in not my shops and be like, you need to search that. Like, go and grab a book off the shelf. Because before the invention of smartphones and things like that, and yes, I was in fish shops pretty much before the invention of smartphones, just about, you wouldn't be able to Google it. So you would just take, oh yeah, they'll be fine. You know, you can put 5 Bala sharks in a 3-foot tank, they'll be fine. So that, the internet has changed it massively, because people have now got access to a wealth of knowledge that, in theory, should mean they succeed. So I think it's, for the most of it, it's good. But I think it's just, we need to be careful with social media. It took our shop from being a top 10 shop to a first, second and third place shop with my channel, with MD Fish Tank's channel, with posting more on Facebook and Instagram. It made a huge amount of difference. It's scary. And I think it's something that we should adopt going forward. And I am working on some projects that me and you have discussed about that I think will help even elevate it more over the future months and years. So I'm really excited for those projects that I'm going to be involved with to start being launched. I'm really excited by that. So yeah, watch this space for social media. But I think it is something that more shops need to do. You know, certainly you now taking on your new role. Yeah, it's something that needs to be looked at more, definitely. And I don't know why the north of England is better at it than the south of England. I'm looking at everyone in, like, not being harsh, but there's so many northern shops.
We're just good at it.
You just like being on your phone. I don't get it. And then, like, there's so few southern shops that are going live on Instagram. Pick your social media channel. It doesn't matter. Just build an audience on one of them. But, you know, there's so many. I have seen a few, actually. There's a few London shops now that have started doing it. I've seen that, which is nice. So I think it is, we're taking inspiration from the north and hopefully now, adopting it. I'm hopeful.
Hopefully so. Yeah. And that laps over onto, like, one of my other questions is, like, how do you think the hobbies, like, changed since when you first started to now? Obviously there's different products, there's different fish that are available, like you were saying as well. You used to have to pull a book off the shelf and open it up and sit there for hours, like, reading descriptions of what some old guy in another country's like caught this little minnow out of a river, and you're like, you have to go off his word, rather than, like, now it's a simple search, or you just use Google Lens and it'll come up with the picture, like the description of the fish there and then. Yeah,
I think, in the long time that I've been part of this hobby, it has changed a lot. Like, there's been, like, open top aquariums were a thing of, like, well, the top, like, 3% of aquascapers use open top aquariums. Now everyone has open top aquariums. Like, that was a huge, like, difference thing. I think the biggest innovation in my time is probably LEDs. That's probably one of the biggest leaps forward, from going from having these, like, 40 and 50 watt fluorescent tubes running your aquarium. So you would have, like, 120 watts of energy just in lighting 8 hours a day, to now having an LED that can do the same for 15, 20 watts or whatever. And I think that's one of the biggest innovations. But like you say, there's been so many changes in husbandry and breeding and wild caught fish and the qualities of foods and liquids. It's made everything easier. Like, I couldn't keep this many. If I went back 20 years when I first started and had 18 to 20 tanks in this house whilst trying to film it on YouTube, I don't think I could keep everything running. Because one, it would be too expensive with all the power that it would be absorbing. And two, looking after all these fish would take so much more work, because the food wasn't as good and the liquids weren't as good, and you just had to be way more on it. And filtration's come on miles. It's a crazy thing to think of where I was. You know, I remember my brother's 8-foot tank in my front room, or in my mum and dad's front room, and it had 3 internal power filters at the time, running an 8 by I don't know, 1.5 by 1.5 feet. It wasn't a big, it was a funny shaped tank that we bought from an auction. And I still think it's in my uncle's garage now, and I've done it a few times where I'm like, we should get it back out and see if this, it's probably 30 years old now, this 30-year-old tank still holds water, just to see if it works. But yeah, that was running on 3 internal filters, sat on 2 Argos TV units, fluorescent tubes over the top of it. It was a step away from being an under gravel filter sort of thing. So yeah, it's definitely come on leaps and bounds, and it means now that more people in theory should be able to succeed, and it's cheaper for everyone. And yes, there's more equipment and there's more things, there's more gadgets and more fish you can buy. But if you keep it standard, and we were talking about it earlier, and probably one of the questions where, like, I've gone back to a lot of my like White Cloud Mountain minnows and glow light tetras. I haven't kept glow light tetras since I was probably like 19. And now I'm a lot older, 35, 6 maybe. I haven't kept those fish in years, and I'm going back to those fish because I've sort of gone the full circle and now coming back to the stuff that I started in the hobby with, when I had fluorescent light bulbs and under gravel filters. So yeah, I think it's cool how much the hobby is extended, and that's what part of my channel is. The more, it comes down to money, doesn't it? At the end of the day, the world turns on money, unfortunately, and as much as I'd like it to not, it does. But the more people you can get into fish keeping and succeed at fish keeping, the more money there is in fish keeping. The more money, the more R&D or research and design is put into fish keeping. The more bigger companies want to invest in fish keeping. So we end up with cooler products and better products. And so it just snowballs. The more people my channel can help succeed, the better everything becomes. And that's the same with yourself. That's why I love your content and love the passion and the grind that you have put into your channel. And that's what I appreciate about your channel so much, is that means that more people are going to succeed. More people are going to get into the hobby because they see someone. And the more people, do you know what, one thing I love is actually all of these smaller creators coming through now. And I hear it regularly where someone's like, you inspired me to like make my own videos. And I saw someone comment about you the other day where you had inspired them to start making their own YouTube videos, and that's amazing.
That for me, like, is surreal. It's like that. I'm not sure if you've experienced it yourself, but like this kind of imposter syndrome where you can't take the compliment and you can't take that because like you think that's not possible.
No,
you're just saying that. Like surely not. Like, how have I managed to inspire you? Like, I had shout out to Muffin, my friend, who popped into the shop. Intergalactic Muffin, he's called.
Love it.
He's popped into the shop and like I went from big mean cichlids to having like lesser mean cichlids. They're still a bit mean, but loads of aquatic plants.
Yeah.
Like where he had none at all and just had rocks. He's like, I've took the leap. I think having plants is the way, having this ecosystem, and like converting people into that way of fish keeping was like, hearing that is like, again, I can't really process it.
No, it's a crazy thing to be part of, and it has, you do get it where I'll go into a shop or I'll even be walking around a zoo, as I told you earlier, and someone pops up and says, oh, you helped me do this, or I've got 20 tanks now because of you. I'm like, sorry. But it's great to inspire those next people coming through and being content creators. And, I don't like using the word influencer so much, but it is showing people how to succeed at the hobby. And I guess, when every hobby's got it, I'm sure that, there's, radio control cars. I'm sure there's people doing the same thing. But it is so cool to see it being now part of my hobby, the hobby that I have enjoyed for 20 years. And now seeing people, 30 years, but now seeing people now enjoying it. And these creators that are like making videos about their 1 or 2 tanks in their house. And now all of a sudden they've got 3 tanks and 4 tanks. And it's just awesome to see. I think it's such an exciting time that we're going to be moving through in the next 5 to 10 years of the hobby. Yeah, really exciting. Are you going to clip-clop around or are you going to come up here? Come on then. Oh, you've been laying outside. You've got bark chips stuck to you. Right, are you going to be part of this? Don't show yourself off. I don't think you can
channel
see that.
Members.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think you can see that bit of the camera anyway, can you?
No, you can't.
Just your head. Perfect.
Good job. Keep that for the channel members, okay?
That's it. Yeah, we'll scroll down later.
Right, so like that we've briefly touched on this question already and what we were just talking about. Like, why did you start YouTube? Because you were just saying there, like, my reason for starting YouTube was just to originally share my passion for the hobby. I decided one day I was off work. Like, the reason I started my channel was that I was off work ill for a month. I had like a really bad issue with my lungs. I was laying in bed and like I think I'd gone to the Maidenhead in Liverpool. And I went with my girlfriend Mia, and we were talking to the lady Sarah, if you don't mind me shouting you out, Sarah. And I was like, oh, I've always wanted to make videos on fishing. She's like, why don't you? And then like Mia gave me that extra push, like, why haven't you actually? You've gone to uni, you've done filmmaking and all that. You like, just do it. I was like, okay. So I filmed me Fluval Flex 57 I had for about 4 or 5 years. I mutilated that thing. I cut a hole in the lid. I cut holes there. I put canister filter there. I cut the back section out of the filtration. Extended it out. I done every minor modification that I could have done with that tank. Yeah, and then I've kept all the fish as well. I was rotating fish all the time because I was stuck with this one tank and I was stuck in this limitation. It allowed me to be in the mindset of like a beginner hobbyist. Like, I tried all the different beginner fish, the tetras, the cichlids, the bettas and stuff like that, all in this one little small setup. I'd done everything and I probably maxed out the stocking in that tank. By the way, in that first video, I'm telling everyone it's over-filtrated and all that. It was. But I was also trying to cover myself because I was so scared. I've seen people post a picture of the tank, it gets ripped apart. And I was like, I'm opening myself up here. And you know what? The feedback was incredible. I remember sitting there like teared up, having a little drink, like a rum with me at the time, like celebrating, go, I've done YouTube videos, game videos when I was a kid, and I was like, I'm celebrating this because I finally had 1,000 views on a video. I was like, this is incredible. It's
amazing, isn't it?
And now I've got videos with like 33k, 11k here and there. I'm just like,
great.
It's mind blowing. I just wanted to, like, my goal for doing it now, like, it's changed. Like, I started just to share it. Now it's to, like yourself, open the doors for new hobbyists, pave the way for new hobbyists, and get more people into the hobby. As you said, we need more people in the hobby. We're trying to keep the hobby alive too, and with all these rules and legislations and all that.
I think that's it. It used to be fish clubs though, like back in the 70s and 80s, like not that I was around then, but it used to be fish clubs. It used to be big fish clubs all around England. Like, they would go to fish shows, and they've all sort of died off now. There's really not as many as there used to be. But the cool thing is, I'm seeing this, not necessarily fish clubs, but resurgence in guys and girls getting together, talking about their hobby, talking about fish keeping, opening up about it, you know, having little meetings in local pubs or restaurants and stuff, and sharing knowledge and sharing their passion. And that's really, really cool. I think it's just really nice to see the hobby and the community, I guess, flourishing in that way. But I realised fairly quickly, obviously MD gave me my biggest push into the hobby. I think, you know, he got me my first 10k subscribers, and from there I sort of just, it's just grinding, isn't it? It's just constant videos and constantly putting yourself out there. YouTube is a hungry beast that likes to be fed, and that's all it is. But I realised very early on, where MD does a lot of scaping and a lot of like showing off what you can do with an aquarium, I was appearing in his videos, and he would ask me the questions of like, I don't know, like what cichlid will go with what cichlid, and what fish will go with what fish, and how do you cut this plant up? And he would ask me those little bits of knowledge that I had learnt over 20 years. And people would come into the shop every day, and I would spend half an hour to an hour with every person. And, you know, I'm sure you find it working in the shop too, that you would get someone come in and they'd be like, oh, I want to know all about how to grow this plant, or how do I put a nubius onto a piece of wood? How do I glue it on? I don't know how to. And I realised very quickly, rather than spending an hour or two individually one-on-one with customers in the shop, I could make a video that would all of a sudden get 10,000 people watching it, 20,000, 30,000. You know, my aquarium plant masterclass is on like 100 and something thousand views, and it just literally talks about everything to do with aquarium plants, from trimming to potting to planting to ripping them apart. And I realised very quickly that, like, yes, there's always other YouTubers doing it, and there's other YouTubers that have probably done the videos that I've done, but I haven't done them before. And I realised very quickly that there was an audience that wanted to listen to me talk about where a white cloud mountain minnow is from, and they wanted the info that they would normally go into their local shop, but they wanted to sit down on their sofa of an evening and watch it. And that was where my channel started, and I started making educational videos, and now I do scaping videos and the zoo and all of that sort of stuff. So I try and make my channel as varied as possible, but I always try and base it around, I want to teach you something in this video. I want you to be able to go away from this video going, cool, I didn't think about a Nubius tank, 2 hours of lighting. Maybe my tank doesn't need 8 hours of lighting like it says in every book since the 1980s. And I think that's what I want everyone. I want to feel like it's just a chat down the pub with your mate. You know, we're just chatting about the tank, we're just talking about it, and I want you to feel like you've gone away from my video going, I've learned 2 or 3 things from that video that I can now mean that will increase the chances of me doing something cool with my tank or something different with my tank. So yeah, it was all about building the community and helping people out, and that's what I've hopefully achieved now that we've hit 100,000 subscribers, which feels proper imposter syndrome. That proper feels like I sat down the other day with my wife Katie and was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't like. It feels weird. It feels like I'm here, but it always. I think it'll always feel weird. I think it'll always feel unnatural.
If it doesn't feel weird, then you're not doing something right.
I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's right. I think you're right there. It is right. I think you are right. People in Lidl's, coming up to me, are you Fish Shop Matt? I was on holiday in Cornwall. Yeah, I am. And then we chatted about fish tanks for 35 minutes, in the middle of Lidl. It's great. That's cool. To be able to build that community all around the world, crazy. Yeah, absolutely crazy, but I love it. So great. It's such good fun.
That builds onto me next question, and it's something that I've maybe struggled with too, is overcoming something in YouTube. What's been the hardest thing? For myself, I felt like I had hit a wall and a threshold, but then it's I pushed and overcome that with just perseverance. I think my channel's on someone mentioned it in my Discord the other day saying, Jesus Adam, you've done 700 odd videos, and I'm like, wow. I mean, that isn't obviously long form content, but that's a collective of shorts and lives. And I was I actually deep dive and it was wow, I've actually been like you were saying earlier, it's opened my eyes up a bit. I've been grinding a lot. So what would you say for yourself has been the hardest thing you've had to overcome in your time on YouTube?
I think, as with anything, it's easy to blame stuff on other things in YouTube. It's easy to go, it's the algorithm doesn't like my content, or this, that, and the other doesn't like this, or you do a video and it bombs, and you're like, I thought that was a good one. But I think there's never been anything that I've had to majorly go, I need to overcome that. You get a bit of burnout. I've done the hobby for a long time, and I've gone through stages where I've just got rid of every tank. I moved house and I'm like, nope, don't want any tanks. Nope, done. Lasts about 6 weeks, and then I'm like, it's just I need something, and all of a sudden it starts growing again. So you have to be careful, I think, with if you're doing your hobby as your job. But I've known that for 20 years. I've been doing my hobby as my job for 20 years, and I've suffered burnout before, and it's just what it is. You've got to sit back, have a think about it, and then refocus your attention. But I think the biggest thing for YouTube to get over is there's always a next step. There's always something that makes your content better. If I've not learnt something by doing a video, then I've done something wrong. As much as I don't watch the channel, but Mr. Beast, obviously he's, YouTube success story of the world, sort of thing. But he says that every video you make, you should make something better in every single video. And sometimes you don't feel like you've learnt something. Sometimes it feels like, I've done the same video, or I've done the same style of video 3 times. But you look back and you're like, actually, I've learnt about camera angles, and actually the multiple camera angles has made my video better in that sense. And I've done this in this video. So I think there's just multiple little hurdles with YouTube, and you've just got to keep going and just making everything better. And whether that's buying £10 microphones from insert Chinese factory here. You know, your Temu and your TikTok microphones and all of that rubbish. Buying them first, and then, oh, okay, cool. Now I can afford a better microphone, like you've just done.
Yeah.
And then, oh, I'm going to buy a better camera, or I'm going to buy a gimbal. I'm going to buy, and it's not always about buying something. Sometimes it's all about learning stuff and learning about like shutting your curtains before you start filming, so there's no reflection in the glass, or you know, yeah, just making sure that those little things you're doing, you're learning every time. Making thumbnails is a huge thing. So I think it is just a constant trial and error, looking at what you're doing. Oh, that didn't really work. Oh, people didn't like that. Cutting back and starting again, or starting a different route. And it is just a constant learning curve. But yeah, I think every YouTube hurdle is a little one. And every now and again you'll get a big one that you make you feel like an imposter, or, you know, someone comments on it, says that, yeah, you know, I don't know. You get the comments every now and again where they're like, this is rubbish, or that's rubbish. The plastic plant tank was, you know, one that I was like, oh my word. It was the first one that dropped below like a 99% liked ratio.
Wow.
And I was a bit like, okay. And but I will revisit it, because I think it's important to show those aspects of the hobby. But yeah, I think it's just lots of little hurdles, and just keep grinding and just keep learning, watching other YouTubers. I said to you, I pick apart other YouTubers. It's horrible. It's really, really horrible. But I'll pick apart another YouTuber's video, and it won't even be in my hobby. It will be in, you know, something else. It'll be a history channel or something that I'm watching. And I'll be like, oh, I didn't really like how they done that bit of camera work, or I don't really like how they done that music. And then I think, hang on, do I do my camera work like that? And then I'll look back through my videos and I'm like, oh my word. Okay, cool, I'll change that, because I didn't like that. It's always easier to be critical of someone else than it is to be critical of yourself.
Yeah.
But you definitely have to be critical of yourself when it comes to YouTube. You've got to, because you won't grow. Yeah, I think it's cool. I think it's just constant. Just work at it. Yeah.
So I've got some shorter questions for you now.
Cool.
So these ones are just like general questions that I'm sure you've probably been asked a billion times, whether that's in a live or the podcast.
Yeah.
So we're just now going to go on to your favourite type of fish, freshwater and marine first. So one of from each part of the hobby.
It's so tricky. It's so tricky, because like mine changes daily. Well, not necessarily daily, but like I'll see a new fish and I'll be like, oh my word, that's the best fish ever. We saw those lipstick tetra out at the shop earlier, and I was like, oh, they're really cool. Like, and that's now a fish that's in my brain, and it's sort of like a little brain worm that will sit there, and it'll just like, do you remember this cool little fish you saw the other week? So yeah, I think if I had to choose a group that like you weren't, I think it'd be, if a big umbrella for freshwater, it'd be catfish. If you wanted a smaller umbrella, it'd probably be Corydoras. And if you wanted an even smaller umbrella, it'd probably be like Corydoras Panda or Corydoras Asher, which Asher is just like a panda with an extra blob. So it's not too different. But yeah, I could get down there.
Similar colour markings.
Absolutely, yeah. Dalmatian mollies is what I would choose. No, but I think, you know, I couldn't single myself down, because like I love I saw an Oscar the other day, a big Oscar. Lush. Like, and it was proper up and down the tank and really interactive. I think there's just so many cool fish. So many cool fish. For marine, again, there is so many. If it was there's a fish that I've wanted to keep for a long time, and I had one for a short period, and I had to sell the tank and move house and stuff, and it was horrible. Well, not horrible, but it happened. Was a marine Betta. So black fish, white pin spots all over it. I believe they simulate a moray's head. They like bury their head in the rockwork, and then their tail looks like a moray's head. So they'll like flick their tail around. I don't know if I read that wrong somewhere, and it's been a long time since I've done any research on them. But they're beautiful, and I'd love to keep one of them again one day. And I saw some like tank raised ones, I guess they would be, and they were like proper tiny. Normally they're like that sort of size, but they were proper tiny, and I loved them. They were so cool. But again, the marine world, you've got a lot of different like seahorses, and I've seen a company I think they're in New Zealand, breeding weedy sea dragons.
Yeah.
Not for the hobby, for like saving the species, but breeding weedy sea dragons, that's the coolest thing ever. So yeah, it's so difficult. It's so difficult. And then you give me a common clownfish and you're like, oh, look at that little common orange clownfish. That's amazing. But it's the most boring fish in the marine world that you could probably have. But people outside the hobby are like, oh. So yeah, I think that'd be it. Corydoras, probably Asher, and then a marine Betta, I think.
Yeah. So now going on to...
Sorry, I had to cough there.
It's all good. Going on to plants and corals / nems now. What would you say your one... If you had to label one plant, like the type of plant, with that being like a cryptocorn or stem... Because obviously cryptocorn, there's multiple of them.
Yeah.
If you say rotalda, there's multiple of them. If you say bushflanger, there's multiple of them.
Yeah.
And then again, for the opposite side, and marine, saying your favourite type of coral / nem.
I think Anubias would be my favourite.
Yeah.
Because of how hardy they are. You don't need anything exciting for them. You know, I've got lighting on 2 hours. I've got lighting on no hours. And they still live. And they're great. If we could get more people succeeding with that, then they can move on to the harder plants to grow. So I think, yeah, Anubias would definitely be my plant of choice. And I love using it. It's in most of my aquariums, I think. When it comes to coral, I'd probably say pulsing xenia. And it's treated like a weed in most saltwater hobbyists' tanks because, you know, it just sits there. It's not very colourful. It's a pinky browny sort of beige colour. It just sits there and pulses its hand, or not hands, polyps. But they do. They look like little waving hands and pulsing hands. It's such a beautiful little coral. Don't breathe into the mic, please. Such a lovely little coral and so easy to grow. You know, if people can have success with that, then they can move on to the harder corals. That being said, I do love a red bubble tip anemone. A beautiful red bubble tip anemone is lush. But yeah, pulsing xenia or Anubias, I think it's easier to answer that. There's too many fish species I like. Whereas plants and corals, I'm a little bit easier to answer that.
So my final one for you is ending it all on this one.
Yep.
What would you say your future goals are?
A lot. There's a lot. And it depends on which paths I take, I guess. The channel has just obviously had the garage build. Well, not just, but a few months ago. So that's my, I put a lot of money, a lot of time into that. So that's my next thing. I want to get that filled with cool stuff, get it all running, super duper. If people could stop offering me cool projects at zoos and stuff, that'd be great, because then I can get on with the garage. But I want to do all those cool projects as well. So yeah, I think that's the next step, is to get the garage finished and full of fish. From there, I've got some cool things in the pipe work with more community building, but on our side of the community, so the actual creators side of the community. Got some plans for that. I've been included in some YouTube creator community groups that I've added you to a couple of them. And I want to build upon that in the fish keeping world. So yeah, there's some cool things coming with that. We're building communities and fish keepers helping each other. And my whole thing is a rising tide lifts all ships. If we can all help people and work and make sure that the hobby is being promoted in the right way, the hobby is going to grow and it's going to be a better place for everyone. So that's the sort of small little steps. Future, Fish Shop Matt wouldn't be Fish Shop Matt without a fish shop. What shape that takes, we will see. I don't think it will be a fish shop in your common sense of fish shops. I think it will be more a place for creators to meet up, to create together, to have barbecues together, to build a thriving community for people just to come down and look around. I don't think it will be a true, fish everywhere and rocks and wood and you can take this tank away for $99.99. That's not my plan. My plan is more of a social media community style hub sort of thing. I can put a lot of words out there. Cafe, music. We'll see what the future holds. But there's some cool plans, and I'll just see if I can actually build them. Hopefully. Fingers crossed.
That was a great answer to the question, of course, and a great interview as well. I appreciate you answering the questions for me today.
No problem,
Thank you very
man.
much. And of course, if you haven't already, I'm sure you have, go and check out Matt's channel, and also check out the tour that we're going to be putting out soon. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Take care. See you later.